I'm back with my cup of Joe, or as you already know, my cup of John, and we're about to drop these gems. You ready?
I'll be honest, there are times when I don't want to respond to him. I hear his call, but I don't want to respond to it. I can't do it. I'm past due for the blessing. Feel stupid. I know I'll pay one day for moving too quick. It's one day too long. I gotta do this.
So, welcome back to the Journey to Trust podcast. I'm glad that you continue to listen. Thankful for all of the support, all of the comments, that this is benefiting you and you're being encouraged by me sharing my story. Please continue to share those stories with me. It encourages me to continue to keep this up. And I struggle with consistency, so thank you guys for supporting me in that way. So in the last episode, I kicked this series off about intimacy. And the title was Isolation or Intimacy because I believe for myself there's only one or two journeys that I could be on. It's either I'm on the road to further distancing myself from God, self, and people, and that is isolation, or I'm on the road toward intimate relationships, being more intimate with God, more intimate with myself, more intimate with people. And I just want to talk about how you start that journey. How did I start that journey? And how do I continue to keep on that journey? Because it's important, right? It's a very, very important principle that I want to go over today. So the first principle I pull from content I actually learned in my recovery journey, and that's principle one in the recovery acronym, which is realize that I'm not God. I admit that I am powerless to control my tendency to do the wrong thing. And here we go. In that my life is unmanageable. The verse connected to that principle is Matthew 5:3, which is, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." So the starting point for intimate experience, being an intimate person, intimate relationships with God, with self, and with others, is recognizing a very crucial point. It's that first point Jesus makes in the Beatitudes. It's that I am poor in spirit. And to be poor in spirit, it doesn't just affect your spirit. It actually affects the way that you view the world and the way that you interact with the world. And it's an intentional step. Intimacy requires intentionality, right? And so the first intentional step that I need to take is this step right here, that I am spiritually bankrupt, that I don't have it, that I don't got it together. And honestly, the most humble people and people that I want to be around the most aren't people that know that they have it. It's people that are like my sponsor who, although he's older, gone through a lot, he's so humble and he's always learning from everything and he's still growing. And I'm just encouraged by those kinds of people who are so present, so self-aware, who are so willing to invest and divest of themselves to enter into your world. And those are the kind of people that I look up to. And so for me, I recognize that unless I am aware of how broken and how limited I am, how wayward my thinking is, unless I'm aware of those things, I'm not actually engaging in the intimate journey because I think I have what I need, right? And so the more I recognize that I'm out of control, the more intimate I am a person. I feel like I'm less short with people because I recognize how I can't control those people's circumstances or how incapable I am to give a right answer for every single situation because I don't even have answers for my own situation. I've become a more supportive person because instead of trying to give somebody a fix, I'm listening, right? So the other day I was talking to a friend of mine and he's explaining about a situation he has with one of his friends and how he's really angry at his friend. And all of these thoughts as he's talking to me about this situation, all of these thoughts are coming through my head of this is what you probably should do. This is something, blah, 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 blah. And I actually did a few times give him some fixes. And then I caught myself and I realized, dang, like I don't really have an answer that can solve his situation right now. And it wasn't until I recognized that I didn't have an answer for his situation that I was able to truly listen. And so me recognizing that I don't have an answer for his situation forced me to not be the expert, to not be the know-it-all, to be a friend, to truly be a friend. And I believe what God is showing me is true intimate relationship is real friendship, real kinship, real fellowship. And I can't have real friendship, real kinship, real fellowship if I'm trying to fix people or if I'm being fixed. And the beautiful thing about my Savior is that he spends a lot less time fixing me and more time loving me, and giving me what I need. And there's times where he gives me advice and he nudges me in this direction or that. But for the most part, I feel like God is just blessing me with different measures of awareness and understanding. And when he does lead me in the right direction, he's gently nudging me. He's not enforcing his will on me. He's not trying to control me, even though the Savior can control me. He's not seeking to control me. He's seeking to give me as much grace as possible. And I believe true intimacy doesn't control. True intimacy recognizes that I can't control. True intimacy recognizes that I don't have the capability to tell you what to do and then you go and do it. The choice actually resides within you to make the right choices for your own life. So if I approach my relationship with Jill like, Jill, this is what I believe you should do with your life. And this is what I believe you should do when this person is treating you like this at work or when this situation, like, no, like the more controlling I am with her, I feel like the more distance that I have with her and the less of a friend that I can be to her. Same thing with my relationship with God. The more that I lean into just being close and intimate with him, the more I actually experience his love and his grace. And I can't experience his love and his grace unless I admit that I don't have the capacity to fix myself, that I'm completely powerless. And a good reminder for me of my powerlessness is actually my sin. When I fall, let's say into lust or porn or depression or anxiety, when I fall into one of these things, before that would be the prime opportunity for me to condemn myself, beat myself up, and tell myself how unworthy and ungrateful and whatever, how negative my situation is, how negative I am as a person. And I just go ahead and beat myself up. And that cycle of depression just continues to perpetuate. But now what God is trying to show me is when I do fall, it's not an opportunity to condemn myself. It's an opportunity for a deeper measure of grace to get in. So the more broken and the more cracks that I recognize are in me, and the less I try to cover those cracks up myself, the more God's grace and forgiveness and love can actually enter into those places. And what happens for me is when I allow God's grace to rule my life, when I allow God's forgiveness to rule my life, I become a more compassionate, a more loving, and a more forgiving person to others. And when I stop trying to manage how I think I should be, then I can actually give myself the space to be my true self. So God, self, and others essentially is what I broke down. And the self part is something that I'm still trying to wrestle with and I'm still battling with right now is how do I become a more intimate person to myself? And there's all of these perceptions and thoughts of what I should be, who I should be, and when I should be. And these things are me trying to fix myself, not allowing myself and giving myself the permission to presently feel and presently experience who I am in the moment. I'm always trying to filter my own person through a paradigm of should be's. And God is trying to break that from me to be more intimate with who I am. And I didn't recognize that I was so distant from me. So to contrast the first step to intimacy, there's a first step to isolation, and I believe it's complacency. And I believe complacency is intimacy cancer. The moment I think that I've got it under wraps, that I'm under control, and I start to get into a mindset where I coast, that's when I know I've missed the mark and I'm already in a place of isolation and I'm already in a place of relapse. For me, relapse is not when I give in to my sinful compulsion. Relapse is when I get complacent and adopt a mindset, a dangerous mindset that says, I got it. I've had enough. And when I've gotten to the table of God and said that I've had enough, that's when I know I'm on the downward spiral. It happened to me just last week. After I finished the podcast, I got into a place where I was just spiritually complacent. I was so focused on producing and getting this podcast out that I missed days of journaling. 3 days in a row, I didn't start my day off with my gratitude list like I normally would. 3 days in a row, I didn't journal. I didn't read my Bible. I was, for a good chunk, I was so focused on just producing. And in my focus on producing and doing, I forgot that I was supposed to be something. That's where I believe I personally need to sink in more is the contrast between doing and being. Rather than focus on what I believe I should do or what I believe I should be for the outside world, I need to be who I am with God first before I can bring it to you guys even. And I lost sight of that, and I ended up giving into porn last week because of that reason. So what I want to do is I want to leave you with a parting thought. And basically, I want to ask you, where are you? Are you at a place where you're on a road toward understanding in more depth how bankrupt and how inept, how incapable you are before God, and you're recognizing your need that much more? Or are you in a place where you have gotten to the table of God, you've eaten, you've tasted and seen that he is good, and you're okay with what it is you've experienced? Because the moment that I'm at a place where I don't need any more, that's the moment where I know that I'm on the wrong path. So I'm hoping that in what I shared, that there's something that can motivate you to trust God one more step more than you did yesterday. Remember, embrace the process. Stay tuned.
But God, your promise, it's always real and on my mind when I don't want it. You've been by my side, proving that I just don't got